Okay, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to another video. Today we will actually be doing a controller review. This is the Sega Genesis Big 6 wireless arcade pad. I ended up getting this off of Amazon for about 34 bucks. And honestly, it's been in my cart for a while actually, but because of a recent project, I had to actually upgrade my controller, and I felt like this was the perfect time to do it. So I finally went ahead and pulled the trigger, and we have it here today. Let's just go ahead and get right into it. Let me get this in focus. Okay, so starting with the reason why they call it the Big 6 controller is because of these big 6 buttons right here. So you have your A, B, C, and then you have your X, Y, Z. And then if you look really closely, like they have dots and bumps and indentions just to kind of let you know what the middle point is while you're playing. On the I do want to talk about the D-pad. So you have the D-pad over here. It's that 8 directional D-pad. It feels exactly like a Sega controller. Up top, above the X, Y, and Z, you do have your start button. It blends into the overall design. As you know, on the original Sega Genesis controller, you know, the start button was up top and it was gray. It was the same color as the XYZ, but well, not even the XYZ because it wasn't featured on the original controller, but you know, you had the ABC and then the gray start button right there. But moving on towards the bottom, you have the home. You have a home button, and then you have a select button. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. Kind of dope how they hid that in there while still keeping its original shape and form factor. Up top, you have your charger port in the middle, and then you have the L and R. So if you were playing a more updated game, or if you were playing even other systems, you would still be able to use this controller overall, and I think that's pretty cool. So you get your old school feel with the new school modifications and buttons and updates and things like that. On this one, you do have that shake as well, which it does bring back that nostalgic feeling, but it's not as shaky as how I remember it growing up, which is actually a good thing. All right, getting into just the authenticity. If you shop on Amazon, you know there are a lot of different retro style gaming controllers that you can get, but I love the fact that Sega and Retrobit, like they actually, you know, they're locked in. This is what you can really get, like even going down to the box. Like, okay, I do think this is one of the cooler boxes for a retro gaming controller. Usually, I throw them away, mainly because it's just like once I get the controller, I'm good to go. But this one just felt like art to me. This one just felt like a true collectible. Like looking at the box, I was like, yeah, we're for sure gonna keep this. Like even down to the, you know, like you have the main box right here, like the main cover, the main design, which is dope. But then to open that up and to see that, I'm like, yeah, for sure. And even the detail, like they put the writing on the back and on both sides. So they really put a lot of thought and the detail into this, and I'm gonna make sure that they are, you know, appreciated for it. Retrobit has not missed yet. It's probably my 3rd or 4th controller for them. Honestly, it's probably my 4th or 5th controller for them. I've been buying for them for a while now, and it wasn't even intentionally. I just would always look up, you know, retro gaming controllers, and they always appeal to me. I never look at the brand. I just buy what looks good to me, and then once it gets here, I'm like, oh, it's a Retrobit. And how I know that it is, I have so many of those thank you cards at the end. I'm like, dang, like me and Retrobit, we gotta be locked in at this point. It also comes with 2 USBs, so you got the USB stick, which you can plug directly into a system. Then you also have the other port to where if you did have a Sega Genesis or a Sega Genesis Mini or any of those things, you can plug that directly in there and go. So just getting into the overall look and feel of the controller, it is clicky. It's exactly how I remember it. It's bouncy. I don't feel like I'm damaging when I'm playing. It actually encourages you to want to bounce down and play and button mash and do all of that. This is actually the perfect controller for fighting games, which I found out while I was using this controller. So let's start with the use cases. When I first got it, I immediately plugged it into my RG406V. I plugged it in there mainly because I knew that I had an Ambernick card in there, and if you order Ambernick products, you know that they come fully loaded, packed with just about every emulator and every game that you could possibly need for it. So for Sega particularly, I knew I had a pretty big Sega collection already on that memory card, so it only made sense for me to just plug it in and go from there, which I did do and I enjoyed. So I just really ran through all my favorites from there. The games I ended up playing were Sonic, WWF, Gunstar Heroes, and NBA Hang Time. I also ended up playing on my Rainey pack as well, which is kind of a cool experience. But the real star of the show with this controller was honestly playing this on the Steam Deck. Not only was I getting a bigger screen, but I was also able to play those same classic games that I was playing before, as well as the new more current games. And that's what honestly took me by surprise and really started to make me love this controller. It really became like my everyday carry and like my number one controller right now. A lot of the games that I've been currently playing, a lot of wrestling, fighting, and beat 'em up type games. Specifically, I've been playing a lot of Skullgirls. That is like my favorite fighting game series right now. I would say, I can't really say series because it's only like 2 games. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy playing fighting games on my Steam Deck, but when it comes to butting, mashing, I do not like using the Steam Deck because I feel like I'm damaging the unit, and I do feel like eventually if you're pushing down hard enough and really trying to compete, you're definitely going to tear it up. So what I ended up doing was, when I plugged in the Sega Genesis controller, I went to Skullgirls, and then, you have that option of, like, normally when you put it in, it just normally goes straight to the main menu, but this time it recognized the controller and it said, hey, do you want it to be player 1 or player 2, and do you want it to function as a virtual gamepad? Once I got it set up, I said, yeah, player 1, it pretty much overrode the, Steam Deck being as the main controller, and you're basically just using it as a monitor. So at that point, I'm starting to play the game, and it's way easier to hit combos and things of that nature because rather than me having to hit triggers, they're pre-programmed into these extra buttons right here. So really, you can just button mash and hit whatever in multiple different angles, and they're going to do something. And honestly, I'm really trying to figure out is if there was a tournament for Skullgirls or other fighting games, would this controller actually be tournament legal? So I'm going to do a little research on that, and we'll probably get back to that later. But playing Skullgirls with this controller is definitely a win. It's definitely a plus. It definitely gave me a way better experience playing it, mainly because I'm actually winning now. The game wasn't as hard, and I'm able to play with more characters and bust off more combos because of this controller. Major plus. Another game that I enjoy playing with this controller is Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Now that is a beat 'em up game based off of a movie. If you haven't seen the movie, it's basically this dude named Scott Pilgrim. He's in a band, blah, blah, blah. He got a girl. The girl that he's talking to, he get a little girlfriend, but then she has like a bunch of different boyfriends. well, all of her exes. Dude basically got to fight all of her exes in order to secure her heart. But anyway, they made a video game based off of that, and it's beat 'em up style. So if you love beat 'em up games like Ninja Turtles or Streets of Rage, you're getting a more updated 2D version of that. And man, it's actually a very good time playing it. Not only is it, again, it's more updated, but the gameplay is actually intense. You're beating up people. You have great moves. You're upgrading as you're fighting. But then what I found very interesting is, like, while you're fighting and progressing, you can actually go into stores and restore your health. You can buy like little upgrades. You can upgrade your HP and health. So I thought that was a very cool feature. But playing it with this controller, you can really just button mash and really get into the game. And it's built on like a Mario, like the menu is kind of like a Mario type thing. Like if you're used to Super Mario World or Super Mario Bros. 3, that little grid in the main menu before you get to the level is built like that. So I definitely thought that was pretty cool. Another game that I really enjoyed playing with this controller is Knockout Kings 2001. I haven't played the Slugfest yet with it, but I did end up playing a few rounds. But I did end up just playing a few rounds of the regular mode, and I did have a good time playing it with this as well. I wouldn't say it's a learning curve with this controller. It's just the first maybe few seconds you have to just figure out, okay, which button is blocking and which button does what, and then you pretty much tap in pretty quickly. But I love the fact that you're able to play just a lot of old school games and new school games. So far we played Sega, we played PlayStation, we played Steam library, and then I even ended up playing Marvel vs. Capcom as well, and the rival schools, whatever. But pretty much any fighting and beat 'em up game in that format, especially like old school, it works with this controller, and it is a fantastic experience playing it on the Steam Deck or just playing it in general. This really did become my favorite controller. And one final use case for this controller for me is I like to use it for display, so it's always out. And for me, I like to put it on my Rainey pack. So if you don't know, Rainey packs are multimedia backpacks that play video games. It's my little baby. It's my little project. And if you're interested in getting one, you can go ahead and purchase one. But each Rainey pack, they're all different. They all do something. They all play video games, but they all kind of have their own life. My last one, I had the Super Nintendo controller with the Skittle buttons, and that was on there for a while, and I just switched it out to this one because a lot of the games that I've been playing recently have been a lot of Sega games, plus my bag is black, and with the new patch, with the mature patch, is black and white, so I just wanted everything to just kind of match and flow. So For now, this is on there, so this is why you see that Velcro on the back, because that is how I attach it to the bag. I basically use this as a patch, and it's pretty much acting as like a design for the backpack. And at the same time, if people did want to play whatever I'm advertising at the time, they're more than welcome to just pull the game off, pull the controller off, and then game as they please. Overall comfortability, it is comfortable for fighting games long term, but I will say when I was playing Knockout Kings, when I was trying to do directional, this is a pain actually. Like you're really going to be applying some pressure mid fight to try to get it where you want it to go. When I say mid, like a lot of pressure, not like you're damaging the unit, but it's like if you're used to using a joystick, you're definitely gonna feel that difference, and you're gonna be like, okay, like this is a little different. Like it's not a problem overall, like if you're playing 2D fighters and beat 'em ups, but if you're trying to do anything diagonal, yeah, good luck. And that will wrap up our review of the Sega Genesis Big 6 controller. If you guys like this, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and I will see you next video.